Hello, my name is Benji and welcome to Dice vs Cards. Today we go back to the 41st millennium to help you build your first generic Space Marines force. Whether you've built an army before or this is your first time at all this, we got you. First things first though, one assumes you're watching this video because you've watched the previous one that saw us crafting two disparate combat patrol armies. But if you haven't, and you want to go straight to some pointers for building an incursion sized army, clocking in at 50 power or 1000 points, then you're in luck because you can pick up this series wherever you very well need. And as I've already inferred, we've got you covered for both open and narrative play, where we'll talk in terms of power, and matched play, where we'll talk in terms of points. And remember that ratio of power to points is roughly 1 to 20. So last time on how to build a Space Marine army, we forged two different paths, both stemming from start collecting sets. The first of which includes only the brand spanking shiny new Primaris Marines and their Vanguard Space Marines box set. And the other, the grizzled war veterans that are non-Primaris Marines, found in the winningly titled Start Collecting Space Marines set. So let's kick things off from whence we came with a fully fleshed out combat patrol of Primaris Marines. And in the spirit of convenience, we have not touched the core of the army at all, even inappropriately. We're still rocking the Lieutenant in Phobos armour with his rerolling 1s to wounds aura, and we're still bringing a unit of 5 infiltrators and 2 units of 5 intercessors. In other words, plenty of objective secured options for an incursion sized army. But with this mob that represent almost all of our combat patrol army, we're still only crammed into a patrol detachment. So now let's get on to the new and shiny stuff. Moving to the elite slots, we're taking ourselves a unit of 3 aggressors. At a cost of 6 power or 120 points, these are a ponderous bunch that thankfully pack a real punch when delivered safely to short range of their target. Unfortunately, they did receive a bit of a nerf in this edition in terms of mitigating their lack of mobility, but that doesn't necessarily make them duds. Plus they become a little bit more consistent in melee against multiple wound units. They're accompanied by a 5-man Reaver squad at a cost of 5 power or 90 points. Their main role is to bring a toolkit that can be useful in a number of different scenarios. Deep strike into an objective or similarly lay down some fire to an unsuspecting target. In fact, there isn't much they can't do. Kit them out for what you need, but don't expect them to see them standing at the end of things. Moving to the fast attack choices, we welcome back our little long nozzled friends with the ability to fly in wherever they fancy and lay down some heavy firepower pretty much across the whole board. Yep, our suppressors still confuse me somewhat, but in a good way. Then new to our army is a 3-man squad of Outriders, the new Primaris bikers that pack quite some resilience considering their overall mobility. At a cost of 6 power or 135 points. They're capable at both medium range and up close and personal in melee. Definitely a great all-rounder. But as is the way of things, all lists must come to an end. So we've just enough room for a 5-strong unit of Hellblasters. At a cost of 8 power or 150 points, these guys really need to be bringing it to justify their cost, and they don't disappoint. It might be a disservice to call them intercessors with high strength medium to long range weaponry, but it ain't far off. Having scalable weapons between 6 and 9 STR, you can really kit these guys with just the right loadout for the task at hand. Ideally you'd couple them with a reroll to hit character like a captain, but sadly we're not in an ideal world yet. As we crunched the numbers though, we almost nailed it. Well, we did with the total power of the army, a perfect 50, and with the points only 5 shy of 1,000, I'll give us an A- for execution. Now what could we possibly do with those 5 points? At some point though, we do need to find ways of taxiing our slow coaches around the battlefield, but as you'll find out in the next escalation, transports don't come cheap. We're still all about bodies on the table in an incursion level force, and this is about as well rounded as we can make one. Moving to the non-Primaris list, they're not bucking the trend at this point and sticking with a patrol detachment as well. With the 1 HQ of a captain in Terminator armour surviving the transition to double the points, and both the 5-man units of tactical squads coming along for the ride as well, we wanted to be original and think outside the box for a third troop choice, and so we made room for one more unit of 5 tactical boys, very surprisingly coming in at the same cost of 5 power on 90 points. But stay tuned for like 2 minutes or so, because there'll be further discussion about the number of models in each unit later on. Now, to be fair, I promise variety and flavour in these lists, but there is literally an endless expanse of just one choice when it comes to troop choices for non-Primaris units in 9th edition. Maybe this is why they're so salty about their bigger, badder brethren. More career choices. Although, there is more to life than being a trooper, as we'll find out. Winding our way to the elite choices, we again welcome the little scout squad that could. Still ready and willing to do a job in an incursion-sized army. But as you've already got this bad boy on the sprue from the start collecting box, we had to bring a venerable dreadnought to the festivities. At a cost of 8 power or 135 points, the bulk of the dreadnought range is really strong in 9th edition, benefiting from being both a core unit and all the potential buffs that come with it, and the ability to shoot in close combat as it's a vehicle. This is just all round elite goodness with much needed durability to match. We've only got time to gloss over the fast attack choices as we're bringing that 3-man unit of bike squad that made the cut last time. Just don't expect these guys to do the same job in melee that the Primaris Outriders do. Keep them at range and allow their mobility to designate a variety of targets. Whilst there was no room for vehicles, especially those with tank tracks in our Primaris list, that is not a statement of fact here. Sitting pretty and on its lonesome in the heavy support slot, we have a Predator Destructor. This unit has a couple of different subtypes, but the Destructor is the most natural fit for an army of this size. Coming equipped with a fair amount of strength 7 hits with his basic loadout and the ability to upgrade, we're now packing a bunch of wounds and a welcome complement of heavy hitting ranged weaponry. All that leaves us with is a small amount of power, less so points which we'll come on to grab ourselves a dedicated transport in the form of a Rhino. A cost of 4 power or 80 points, this is going to give us the means to get the captain and one of the tactical squads up the field with a degree of reliability. Yes, you can opt to cram 2 of the unit's attack squads and drop them off at your destination, but we want to get El Capitan into the fray for some shenanigans. The Rhino also packs some firepower, albeit a limited amount, but just enough to say it's not all about the taxi service. So that was the non-Primaris list in its entirety. Or was it? At a spot on 50 power, this is all you're getting. But with no upgrades, this only amounts to 885 points. Quite a bit of wiggle room, and further evidence that our veteran Marines are a scalable bunch. Job number 1 is to increase one of the tac squads to a unit of 8, maxing out the capacity alongside the Terminator Captain in the Rhino. You've then got options to upgrade to special weapons across any of the tac squads, but you can also consider upgrading your Predator or even Rhino, but maybe even your Captain, however you see fit. So we're definitely starting to see a theme here then, with the Primaris clearly fitting into that mould of 1 power to 20 points ratio, making the job of building an exclusive Primaris army that bit easier. But there's so much choice when sticking to the old. But just as importantly, we're starting to see a nice divergence in choices between both lists, making it that little bit easier for you to decide what piques your interest. What is apparent at this point though is that outside of any starter core sets, there's definitely a price premium to pay if you want to go full Primaris. There are specific chapters like Space Wolves that have their own start collecting sets that may help you get to your destination a little bit more economically, but they'll come with their own unique heraldry more often than not. Check out the Games Workshop website to discover your options in that regard, but on the face of things you're edging towards paying a little bit more for your Primaris Super Freaks over the good old boys of yore. If nothing, it at least gives you some food for thought at this point. That's it for the second part of this series, however. I hope you're sticking with us for this wild ride and finding it informative in the process. Stay tuned for the remaining 2 videos in the series where we build armies for Strike Force and Onslaught armies. However, that's it from me. I'll see you next time.